Have you ever stared up at the night sky and felt that weird little pull in your stomach, like the sky is staring back? Because for centuries, people from every country, every background, every walk of life have reported the same kinds of things. Strange lights that don't behave like aircraft, objects that stop on a dime, shapes that move in ways that laugh at physics. And the craziest part? A lot of these sightings don't come from conspiracy forums. They come from pilots, from security cameras, from military sensors, from everyday people who weren't looking for fame and didn't even realize what they captured until later. Tonight, we're digging into some of the most mind-bending UFO sightings ever recorded, cases where objects multiply, vanish, accelerate instantly, hover silently over cities, and in some cases, appear to interact with military aircraft and ships. Is it evidence of something not from Earth? Or are we seeing secret technology, misunderstood natural phenomena, or hoaxes that got way out of control? Either way, buckle up. Because once you hear these reports back to back, one question keeps getting louder. What is actually happening in our skies? Before we start, this video explores reports and footage that have been shared publicly. Some cases remain unexplained, some may have conventional explanations, and some are heavily debated. Our goal is to look at what people claim they saw and why it still unsettles them. All right, let's begin with a sighting that sounds like a glitch in reality. In Warminster, England, about 100 miles from London, someone was sitting in their car when they noticed what looked like a couple of helicopters in the distance. Nothing unusual, until they zoomed in. Instead of helicopters, they saw two bright orbs flying side by side, perfectly synchronized, like they were locked together. Then the orbs passed behind a hill and vanished. A few moments later, they reappeared. That alone is strange, but what happened next is what makes people's skin crawl. Those two orbs suddenly split into 5 smaller lights, like something multiplied in the sky, and the group began moving in coordinated patterns, almost like an aerial team performing maneuvers. 2 becoming 5 is the kind of detail that pushes people into one of 2 camps. Either this is an illusion, camera artifact, or misidentification, or those extra objects were there the whole time, and only became visible when they wanted to be. And that theme, objects appearing, disappearing, reappearing, shows up again and again across the world. Now jump to the United States, Plymouth, Wisconsin, 2017. An amateur photographer is flying a drone, recording storm footage, when suddenly a white orb rockets past the camera at ridiculous speed. It's there, and gone. No blinking navigation lights, no steady flight path, no gradual acceleration, just a fast streak that looks like it's moving far faster than anything you'd expect to see in that kind of footage. And this isn't a one-off style of sighting. These orbs show up constantly in reports. Small, bright objects moving like they don't care about wind resistance, turning like they aren't bound by inertia, sometimes hovering for long periods, sometimes vanishing like a switch is being flipped. So what are they? Some people believe they're surveillance drones, others call them probes. And a darker theory says they're monitoring us, not just our cities, but our infrastructure, our military sites, and even our environment. Which brings us to a sighting that happened during disaster. And that alone makes it feel unsettling. During the Woolsey Fire in California in November 2018, as smoke filled the sky and flames destroyed nearly 100,000 acres, people watching the news noticed something strange above the chaos. A cigar-shaped object appeared to hover above the smoke, moving slowly. If it was a plane or helicopter, why wouldn't it behave like one? And why hover over a catastrophe? Skeptics say it could have been a distant aircraft distorted by heat, smoke, or camera compression. But believers ask the scarier question. What if it wasn't there for the fire? What if it was there for something else, and the fire just made it easier to spot? Now let's shift to something captured from a passenger's view, high above Greece over the Aegean Sea. A video shows an elongated object that appears to rotate and twist in ways that don't resemble commercial flight. And in this case, there's an extra detail that made people argue for years. A dark trail behind it, almost like smoke. That pushes some viewers toward a secret military craft theory, because if it's smoking, maybe it's propulsion. But others argue the trail could be an optical artifact, something caused by the camera, the lighting, or compression. Either way, the reason this case sticks is because of how many cigar-shaped sightings exist worldwide. Different countries, different years, same general shape. And that leads to the question, are we seeing one category of phenomenon, or just a convenient shape people assign when they can't make out details? Now, Texas, April 2022, Kyle, Texas. Multiple witnesses report a craft with an eerie glow, described as greenish by some, orange by others, depending on the footage, hovering silently and seemingly stationary. No obvious propellers, no engine sound, no dramatic movement, just hovering. Texas shows up over and over in UFO reports. And whether you believe it's because of military bases, testing ranges, or simply the size of the state and the number of people watching the sky, the pattern is real. Texas is a hotspot. And not long after, in England again, a doorbell camera catches something even more iconic in UFO lore. A triangular craft, 3 bright lights forming a clean triangle, gliding across the sky slowly, not zipping like an orb, but cruising. Triangular sightings are some of the most argued about because triangles can be misidentified aircraft, but they're also one of the most frequently reported structured craft shapes. And if triangles are explainable, why do so many witnesses describe the same thing? Silent movement, slow glide, and lights positioned like a deliberate design. Now fast forward to June 2024. Montana. A glowing cigar-shaped object appears again, moving slowly, and a witness using night vision claims it looked angled, like it was descending, almost preparing to land. Montana. Wide skies, sparse population, lots of darkness, lots of remote land, perfect conditions for someone or something to operate without being bothered. And that same year, another eerie camera capture comes out of Chattanooga, Tennessee. A star moves across the sky, then stops, then shoots away at incredible speed. If you've ever watched satellites or planes, you already know why this freaks people out. Planes don't stop mid-flight. Satellites don't stop at all. A conventional explanation could be perspective and camera shake, but the reason this case spreads is because the movement looks deliberate, like something is aware it's being watched. And that brings us to sightings over India, including strange lights reported above a temple during a festival. Multiple bright lights blink and move erratically. Some viewers immediately say, drones. That's reasonable. But believers point to the number of similar reports across different parts of India, including sightings near sensitive infrastructure, and ask whether a pattern is forming. Now we get into a category that makes these stories even more intense: UFOs near water. Because for years, one of the most consistent claims in UAP reports is that some objects appear to move between air and ocean like it's nothing. A Sunset Marina video shows a strange object moving overhead, and when zoomed in, it doesn't resemble a typical helicopter or plane. The shape seems compact, almost like a probe. And there's something about daylight footage that hits different. Night footage can be lights and illusions, but daylight footage, even if it's blurry, feels more real to viewers. Then we go to Russia, where UFO lore is especially wild. A pyramid-shaped silhouette appears above Moscow in footage that looks like a dark shape embedded in cloud cover. It isn't glowing brightly like many classic sightings. Instead, it appears like a faint, massive shadow. Some call it cloaking technology. Others call it cloud illusion. But the reason it's unforgettable is the idea. A huge shape hovering above a major capital city, barely visible, but present. And it isn't the only triangle/pyramid case. There are similar claims of large triangular craft appearing above strategic sites, including areas tied to military power, which leads to the most uncomfortable question of all. If these are real, why do they show up near military zones so often? Now let's talk about one of the most frightening patterns in modern reports. Multiple lights, information, approaching people on the ocean. In one story, fishermen see bright lights hovering above the water, orange and intense, in a grouped formation. Then they try to move away, and the lights appear to follow. The clip ends before we ever learn what happened next, which makes it creepier. No closure, no explanation. Just a chase, and then silence. Now to one of the most famous military-related incidents, a series of encounters reported around Navy ships. Multiple UAPs were reported swarming in the area, including an object described as a self-illuminated sphere observed on thermal systems. There are even claims of objects filmed in war zones, hovering, stationary, disc-like, observed by soldiers who initially fear its enemy tech, until it becomes clear it doesn't behave like anything they recognize. And then there's one of the strangest modern stories that blew up online. A UAP nicknamed the Jellyfish from Iraq, discussed widely after being reported by journalists who claimed it came from military sources. The description in those discussions is unsettling. An object that appears inconsistently on thermal, changes from hot to cold, and seems difficult to lock onto, as if it's interfering with sensor tracking. Whether that claim is accurate or exaggerated, it reflects the same fear behind modern UAP debate. If some of these objects are real and some of them are advanced, then what are we dealing with? Foreign technology? Or something that isn't human at all? Now, let's zoom out for a moment, because not every case is military. Some are mass sightings that refuse to die. The Phoenix Lights of 1997, thousands of witnesses reported a pattern of lights over Arizona and Nevada, often described as a V-shape or boomerang formation, moving silently across the sky. The Air Force pointed to flares. Many witnesses rejected that explanation. And the Phoenix Lights remains one of the most famous examples of why UFO stories don't disappear. Because when thousands of people say the same thing on the same night, it becomes harder to shrug off. Another headline-grabbing case, a bright orb filmed over Jerusalem in 2011, hovering above a sacred site, then shooting upward at an insane speed. That clip has been debated endlessly. Some call it CGI. Some call it real. But the reason it hooks people is simple. It looks like a moment where the sky breaks the rules. And that brings us to the most consistent fear behind all of this. These objects don't just fly. They accelerate instantly. They hover silently. They move in formations. They appear and disappear. They sometimes seem to react to observers. So here's the real question. If these are misunderstood human technologies, why do they show up everywhere? And if they're not human, why do they seem so interested in what we're doing? Because after hearing these reports from England to Texas, Greece to India, the U.S. coastlines to conflict zones, one thing becomes clear. The phenomenon isn't staying in one place. It's global. And whether the answer is extraterrestrial, experimental, or something we haven't even considered yet, the fascination isn't going away. In fact, it's growing. So here's what I want you to do. Pick the one sighting in this video that creeped you out the most. The multiplying orbs, the objects that stop midair, the triangle craft, the cases near warships, and comment which one you think is the hardest to explain. And if you want part 2, with even more cases and deeper breakdowns of the most controversial footage, hit like, subscribe, and turn on notifications. Because the sky isn't getting quieter. If anything, it feels like it's getting busier.